Speaker.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, I rise to commend this bill to the House in the second reading and to support in large part the comments of the Minister who has just resumed his seat. Mr Speaker, I wish to note that there is bipartisan support for this bill, that the genesis of the bill lay in the previous Labor administration and that its execution and implementation has been carried on with thoroughness and efficiency by officials of the Reserve Bank of New Zealand under the stewardship of the current government. Mr Speaker, I wish to commend the Select Committee, its chairman, Mr Craig Foss, its members on all sides, and the officials which have supported it. I wish to commend the insurance industry, which I believe has taken a broad and national interest-based view to the very serious matters which are the subject of this bill. Mr Speaker, I wish to reflect upon the fact that the context for the genesis of this bill was a series of extraordinary events that brought the world economy itself to the brink of a depression unprecedented since 1930s. Mr Speaker, in October of 2008, on a day I will never forget, we received news that Lehman Brothers, the American investment bank, had collapsed. Lehman Brothers was at the heart of the New York financial infrastructure, and world credit markets froze. In the weeks that followed and the months that followed, the New Zealand Reserve Bank rose to probably its toughest challenge, and it did so with grace, sir, and rigour. Sir, it was not many months later when the world's largest insurer, IAG Group, sought a bailout by the US administration, and the world was advised that there was a real prospect that global credit card payment systems would be suspended, and every New Zealander would have, thank you, hey, hijack. I've got acronymitis, and I thank my colleague for the correction. Every New Zealander who had a credit card would have noted the disruption and would have felt the disruption that caused. And so, Mr Speaker, we have a bill here which sets about bringing the insurance industry and the reinsurance industry within the Prudential Supervision purview of the New Zealand Reserve Bank. And in doing so, it further underscores the importance of New Zealand having what's known as a full-service Reserve Bank, one which is responsible both for the conduct of monetary policy and the supervision of the printing issuance of currency, but also the integrity of financial markets, noting that financial stability is so much more than simply price stability. So that brings me to the key provisions of the bill, and in this we will debate them in the committee stage in more detail, and I won't go through them now other than to single out the issue that was of most concern to the committee, which was the treatment of overseas insurers operating in New Zealand. And when I reread some of the language in these notes, I do believe that some clarification is merited. The committee wrestled with the issue of whether New Zealand-based insurers would be disadvantaged by the provisions of this bill, which allows the Reserve Bank to grandparent in foreign, mainly Australian-based insurers into the New Zealand market. And we spent hours discussing and receiving evidence on whether New Zealand-based insurers, and I can say publicly AMI is the key example here, would be disadvantaged. Now, on balance, the committee was reassured by officials that there would be no such disadvantage in the way in which this legislation was implemented. But I do want to lay down a very serious marker that the Labor opposition will remain vigilant on that matter, and that the sovereignty and the strength of the New Zealand financial markets is a matter of the highest national importance. We have a continuous bleed on our external accounts because most of our financial systems are overseas owned, and we must not hollow that out. Mr Speaker, let me come to the second major theme that I wish to advance today, Mr Speaker, and that is that the extension of prudential supervision to the insurance sector has clearly required legislation. Sir, it's also appropriate the extension of the current Reserve Bank role to macro-prudential supervision of the monetary system and the counter-cyclical use of macro-prudential policy should have legislative amendment akin to this bill. Mr. Speaker, the counter-cyclical use of a prudential policy to achieve monetary policy objectives is not provided for explicitly in the Reserve Bank Act as it currently stands. It is not provided explicitly in the Reserve Bank Act as it currently stands. And the Reserve Bank, sir, is interpreting the Act as being broad enough to accommodate both roles. Mr. Speaker, the Labour opposition, as part of its extensive review of monetary policy, recommends...
Order. Look, order. We have a speaker on his feet speaking, and there's a cross-dialogue going on here which has got nothing to do with the debate. The Honourable David Cummins.
Mr. Speaker, and it is a matter of great regret that given the seriousness of the financial issues that surround our economy, Mr. Speaker, that this matter of extension of the Reserve Bank Act into macro-prudential has not yet been accommodated. Mr. Speaker, there is a third theme that I wish to advance today, and that is that ensuring the integrity of the insurers, sir, goes to the heart of our financial system. And, sir, the insurance industry requires public confidence just, sir, as the institutions of government more broadly require public confidence. That is why we have a cabinet manual. That is why we have standing orders. That is why we require Prime Ministers to enforce the provisions of the cabinet manual on all ministers. Because if they do not, sir, the public has no insurance that those who operate to supervise their markets and their country are acting with integrity. Mr. Speaker, it is a matter of great sadness and some concern that the public of New Zealand, Mr. Quinn would do well to note this, that the public of New Zealand holds politicians to be less trustworthy than prostitutes. Mr. Speaker, that is a matter of grave concern and a matter, sir, the member may laugh, but on a day when it has been revealed that New Zealand's Minister of Trade Negotiations has used information found in his conduct of ministerial duties to enrich himself through the shadowy operation of a private trust and failed to declare that publicly, sir, that is a matter of concern because it corrodes the integrity of the government and of this House. And, Mr. Speaker, I wonder why the Prime Minister of New Zealand has lowered the standards of ministerial accountability, standards which are so far lower than those which patently apply in the New Zealand Labour Party, because ministers in this government are allowed to enrich their private interests when on public business, when they are allowed to buy and trade shares using information.
Now we're getting into territory of accusing a member of points which aren't part of this debate, and I'll ask the member to withdraw that comment and to proceed. He has 1 minute remaining.
Mr. Speaker, I withdraw the comment in relation to any particular member. But, Mr. Speaker, I trust that you will not require me to withdraw the sentiment that ensuring the integrity of our political institutions, including our cabinet, is a matter of the highest national importance. And, sir, in that regard, it has to be regretted when a Prime Minister lowers those standards of accountability. And the Minister of Finance might smirk about that matter because he has been on the receiving end of that leniency on several occasions. and other members might find themselves in need of such leniency.